answers.
Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I have another wonderful program with another wonderful guest. This program is made specifically for caregivers, caregivers that take care of people that can't take care of themselves, but it's also for adult children to learn about caregiving because your parents are going to get older, people you know getting older. And so it really is for people that want to learn and want to know about life and what life brings. And unfortunately, life changes us. COVID-19 has changed us. This is going to be a great show because we're going to be talking about something everyone has been suffering with for the last year and a half, and that is stress. Now, some people have a lot of stress, some people have a little bit of stress, but I would venture to say that most people in the last year and a half with COVID-19 and now with the Delta variant on top of losing their job or trying to work at home or trying to have their kids learn school at home, dealing with all of these things, too much on our plate, too much uncertainty, too much that we don't know. It's stressful. And so stress, as doctors will tell you, will kill. Cardiologists will tell you, you have too much stress on your heart, it will kill you. Stress is something that can cause illnesses. It can cause people to be depressed. It can cause people to have heart problems. It can cause a lot of issues. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to get rid of that stress, or at least how to help get rid of that stress. And I know I'm all for that, and I hope that you are too. So today we have my special guest, Jillian Staken, and she is a yoga instructor, and she's with me here in our studio in Boca Raton, Florida. Welcome, Jillian, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. And we're going to be talking about your specialty, which is yoga and meditation. And so I'm curious, you are someone who teaches yoga, who goes out in the community, helps people. Why did you become a yoga instructor in the first place? Is there a special reason?
That's a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a combination of trying to get through challenging times, manage stress, and I grew up dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression, and I discovered mindfulness and meditation first, and that practice really improved my life. It changed the way I thought, it changed the way I reacted to things, and so that was kind of like the first seed that was planted for me. And then a few years later, I found the practice of yoga, which was like this huge light bulb that went off for me. The first class I ever took just completely, it just brightened up my whole day. It just changed everything. And I knew from that first class that I wanted to teach. I knew I needed to spread it to other people, to help share like what it had done for me. So that's pretty much my story. I was on medication growing up for different things. I sought different therapy. And I officially do not take any medication. I practice yoga, meditation, and I live a really healthy lifestyle. And I definitely owe it to yoga and meditation and just being a little bit more centered. So it's kind of my story of,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, that's really impressive that you were able to heal yourself, you know, your mind, body, and spirit, right? Because that's kind of what
That's
it's
what
all
it's all
about,
about.
right?
Yep, it is.
I have taken yoga before, and I can tell you, well, I have my own stories about that, but I'll share that a little bit later. And so you mentioned that this yoga practice helped you because you had anxiety and depression. So are those some of the normal, natural benefits of doing yoga, and what are some of the other things?
Yes, depending on what kind of yoga you practice, like a restorative practice, a yin practice, which is focused more on the parasympathetic nervous system, that will help with depression, anxiety, but also other benefits are you become more flexible. There's strength training involved in yoga as well. So, I mean, it's literally a body, mind, spirit. It's a whole experience. A lot of people, I have a client who has, she has like early onset of, I'm missing the word, but she's an older client, and it really just keeps her sharp. You know, she's able to slow down her thinking and focus more on her movement. So there's a lot of different benefits. It's not just one category. So I think it could work for anybody.
And I think you touched on, you know, it's healthy. I think a lot of people, because the times we're living in are very stressful.
Yes.
I think a lot of people try to self-medicate to take that stress away.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do it healthy. They run, they jog, they work out. But a lot of people do unhealthy practices to try to get rid of that stress. Right. They overeat. Maybe they indulge in alcohol too much. I mean, everything should be in moderation at least, right? Yes. There are a lot of unhealthy ways of dealing with stress. But this is healthy, and this is good, and that's what we're talking about. So we want to share that, and I'm so glad that you are here today to share that, to spread the word. So most people know of yoga, heard of yoga, and most people know it's been around a long time. But what's the history of yoga? I mean, I know it goes back many, you know, probably centuries.
So it originated in India, and it's one of the legs of Hinduism. So it was one of their ways to connect more on their religion, spiritual practice. And then over the years, other cultures have taken it and turned it into something different. And I think a lot of people who are more connected to that side of it maybe feel like, what happened? But I love that it's transformed into something that now we're on a radio show and we could talk about, and it's not so like taboo and like weird. It's something now mainstream, and I think anything you practice should be personal, and it should come from a place of being authentic and what it means to you, and that helps it translate. But yeah, that's the...
Well, when you mentioned that word taboo, you know what I thought of? I thought back in the 60s with the hippies,
yes.
right? And that's kind of what I first thought of. It's like the weird hippies. They used to do yoga, and people thought, oh, that's kind of weird, right?
Right.
But now it is very much more accepted. People know about it. They're learning the health benefits of it. So it's not weird anymore, people. So it's something that's really, really good. So this is exciting. We have a lot of questions to ask Jillian. We want to learn today about relieving our stress, our anxiety, even depression. So we're going to be back in just a minute, but first a commercial break.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. We are talking today about stress relief, and my special guest today is Jillian Staken, and she is a yoga teacher, and she's going to be talking about how yoga and meditation can help us relieve our anxiety, our stress, our depression, anything pretty much that ails us, especially during these times where it's really, really difficult. We're all dealing with all kinds of stress. So Jillian, you were talking about different types of yoga, where yoga comes from, where it originated. But I know when people hear yoga, that word, they probably sometimes have a misconception about what yoga is, especially if they've never experienced it before. So what are some of the misconceptions that you've heard in all the years that you've been teaching that people tell you about yoga, or maybe tell you the reason why they don't want to do yoga?
It makes me laugh because I think it's so silly, but people all the time will be like, I'm not flexible enough, like yoga seems really hard, and those are probably the two main ones, other than if somebody has some type of like injury. And it's funny because I always have this saying, I say it's not about touching your toes, it's about how you get there. Like that's the whole thing about yoga. It's not about how good you can be in a pose, how aligned you can be. You can't be bad at it.
You can't.
No,
it's impossible to be bad at it. Is that what you're saying?
It's so impossible. You just showing up means you're good at it. You know, like you just getting to a place where you're going to practice that's all that matters.
But people feel competitive if you're new and you go into a class and maybe you've never done it before, and there are people that are more experienced and you can see that they can do certain poses you can't. People would probably feel a little bit intimidated, wouldn't they?
Yes.
So what do you say to those people?
I just say exactly that. You know, I just say it's really just about showing up as yourself. I mean, that's my style of teaching. So my preaching is just listen to your body. Like, as long as you just listen to your body, it's not about what I'd say, don't focus on what anybody else is doing. It's just about what you're doing. How can you create a little bit more space in between your thoughts? And how could you just bring it back to the body and what's happening? And usually that gets people out of that, like, that space of judgment, because that's what it really is, right? We're all just criticizing ourselves, thinking we need to be doing something more, doing something better. So it's really just about self-acceptance.
Well, I have to tell you my first experience with yoga, and you'll appreciate this, I'm sure. So I decided I would do it, you know, and I went to my first class. And I felt that intimidation. There were other people that had so much more experience, but I had my mat and my water bottle and my towel, and I'm ready. And I just felt it was so difficult. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I was trying, but I didn't know really what I was doing, but I was trying. So after class, I went up to the instructor, and I told her, I said, I don't think this is for me. I just don't think I can do it. And she said, no, you can. And she was very encouraging. She said, just come back again. Please come back again. So she made me promise to come back the next week. So I did. I went back the next week, and all of a sudden, I'm doing the moves. And I'm like, oh, I can do this, and I can do that. So I said, well, she must have made it easy just for me this week. So I went up to her after and I said, thank you. And she says, for what? I said, because you knew it was hard, so you made this week really easy so I could do it. She said, no, I didn't. She goes, I didn't change anything. And so what we realized, or what I realized, it was all up here, right? It was in my head because she said she did not change the way she did it, but I changed, right, with my thinking. Because I came back, I showed up, like you said, just show up. And then I just, week after week after week, and I saw improvement. I really got into it. I saw the benefits of it. So for all of you out there that maybe think the way I think or some other people think about yoga, just show up, right? I mean, that's the first step, and you'll be amazed, right?
Yeah. I say 3 times. You have to try 3 classes. Give yourself 3 chances.
Okay.
And if it's not for you, it's not for you.
It's like going out on a first date, right? You got to give it a couple chances.
I don't know,
See how it connects with you, right? I don't know. That's what they say anyway. Just meet somebody new, you got to give it 3 chances before you decide if it's for you or not. So
That's true.
I don't know. Just a little analogy there. So what about people? You mentioned about people that might have disabilities, right? Because are there any limitations? Because a lot of people are not flexible. So are there physical limitations that would prevent someone from trying yoga? And are there age limitations also that would maybe go along with that?
Yes and no.
I love those answers.
Yeah, because, if you have any type of like serious injury, or you are, much older and you're not really that mobile, you could still do something like chair yoga. So, and you could pretty much get into almost all of the postures sitting in a chair. It's just modified. So a lot of people think they're not doing yoga if they're using blocks or to modify, but that's not true. It's just helping you get into the posture depending on your body type or where you're at. Obviously, if you're pregnant, you could still do yoga, but it has to be very modified. You can't really be, most pregnant women can't lie on their backs. Obviously, they can't be on their bellies. No twisting when you're pregnant. So it really just depends. I have a client that has fibromyalgia, and she's really stiff, but our sessions are super gentle and guided. But she's still doing yoga. There's still a beginning, middle, and end. So it's really doesn't matter. And then kids can do yoga. It's really for everybody. So
kids can definitely do yoga. I was doing. I was visiting my grandchildren, and I was doing my yoga upstairs in the bedroom one day, and the little 2.5-year-old came in, and I was doing Happy Baby, which is it's a pose called Happy Baby. So I'm on my back with my legs up in the air, grabbing my feet like this, and the baby literally came in, and he was happy, and he literally was doing Happy Baby, and he actually followed me and did what I did. It was the cutest thing. So I know the poses have names for a reason, and I mean, I know why that one was called that, but he could do it. He enjoyed it. I think he thought it was entertaining, but kids are really flexible. Yeah. So why would kids do it if they're already so flexible? Is there a benefit to children?
Yes. So it teaches them how to pay attention, which is like, in school or anybody's pay attention. But how do you pay attention, right? Nobody ever really breaks that down for you. And so it's just about creating more awareness and attention, and that is the key for children. And the benefit is creating more, a lot of children have attention deficit disorders and different things like that. Now everyone is on a screen, which obviously affects everyone. So that is definitely the benefit for them, is being able to pay attention and learn how to do it, not just...
So it's a little bit disciplinary in a way, too, for them, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to not only pay attention, but they have to follow the lead, right, of the instructor and pay attention and do it. So follow through and discipline.
Right. And it's in a fun way. It's not this, school setting, class setting where they're at a desk and, they have a book. It's more... it's just lighthearted. Smiling is happening. Like I have a thing where I have them do like circles with the top of their body, and tell them to think they're like getting the last bits of peanut butter out of a jar, and it's just like cute stuff like that. And it teaches them how to connect with their bodies, which is another thing that we don't really talk about. Like, where are you feeling anger? Where are you feeling sadness? Those are all things that aren't like talked about on a regular basis, which are also super important to be able to express those things.
Wow, I never really thought about that, because kids do have emotions that sometimes come out sideways if they're fighting in school or they're sad about something going on at home. And so you address those things in the classes as far as, because stress does affect your body in different places, right? So if you're angry or if you're stressed out, that's going to actually manifest in some part of your physical.
Yes.
That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's just learning how to sit with it, learning how to just breathe. And you don't necessarily always have to take action when you're feeling a certain way, right? It comes and then it goes. So instead of acting out, you learn how to, oh, this is what I'm feeling and it's going to pass soon. So just an understanding.
It's almost like take 10 deep breaths before you react, right? And you teach breathing in yoga, right? So you do have your breaths, and I think that kind of goes along with that whole concept there. You're breathing, you're deep breathing, you're releasing, the anger, releasing the stress. So that's all part of it too.
Yes.
So what about older people that aren't so flexible, but maybe have brittle bones or have, maybe some other physical condition? When they go to a class, do they have to take a special class because they're on that level, or can they take a regular class and just self-modify the class? What do you think about that? Because you say it's just about showing up. So can anybody kind of really benefit from it, or should they ask their doctor first before they start a program like this?
Definitely. I definitely always recommend talking to your doctor, and the doctor is going to tell you definitely need to go to a chair yoga class, or you have to go to a very gentle class and really modify. So I think there's that fine line where somebody either can modify or somebody's just not in that place. I would always talk to your doctor for sure before embarking upon that.
That's what they say before you do any kind of exercise program. Check with your doctor and make sure that it's good for you. There are other misconceptions about yoga, that once you start it, it's a lifetime commitment, those kinds of things. So talk about longevity of a commitment. Can you benefit from it short term? Do you have to do it for years to really get anything out of it? What's your experience?
I mean, it's definitely, you could do it once and gain something from it.
Really?
I mean, I've seen people take my class for the first time, and it just plants that seed for them of like, oh my gosh, I want to feel this more and more. But just like everything else, it's an ebb and flow. Like, nothing is ever linear, right? Like, you talk about healing is like 2 steps back, 2 steps forward. It's one of those things where you don't have to necessarily be on the ride of yoga forever. I just think it's about where it takes you. It's never really about like there's like this end destination and you need to do X, Y, and Z. I think yoga opens you up to yourself, like your true self. So it's about where it takes you, and it could be different things. It doesn't have to be like yoga for 5 times a day forever. I mean, that's the beauty of it, that it's not that. And I love that.
So it's a process, right? And everybody
definitely
processes everything differently.
Yes.
It's definitely something. I mean, I would encourage anybody to try it if you haven't, because there's definitely health benefits from it. And you've proven that with your own personal story. There's definitely health benefits to it. We're going to talk a minute here about chair yoga. You mentioned chair yoga. So chair yoga is good for people that maybe can't get down on the ground,
Right.
Because they say, well, if I get down on the ground, I'm never going to get up, right? And so there's chair yoga. So is chair yoga as effective as the regular kind of yoga, would you say?
Yes, because it's still, you're still getting the posture, so you're still able to open, you're still able to breathe, you're still able to meditate. So you have all three of those components, which is what you need to be doing for yoga. So it's definitely just as effective. The only issue is if in your mind you feel that it's not going to be. You know, it's that perception once again of this isn't yoga.
What we think we are, right?
Right.
So I have a story about that too, because I actually took a chair yoga class thinking, oh, this is going to be too easy, right? I get to sit in a chair. I don't have to get down on the ground. And let me tell you what, it wasn't as easy as I thought. I mean, not that it wasn't easy, but it was challenging, you know, as much as being down on the ground, the things that we had to do, the movements. You know, just because you're sitting in a chair doesn't mean that you're not stretching and you know, getting benefit out of it. And I was
different.
It's just different. And I was very impressed because my sister, she has sciatica, so it's hard for her to get on the ground. So she went to a chair yoga class. She encouraged me to try it. So I'm like, okay, you know, I was kind of skeptical. But it was amazing that how I felt after. I mean, I felt as good after chair yoga as I did, you know, doing a downward dog, you know, because you actually have to put your head down between your legs and you get that rush of blood into your brain, right? And so yoga is really good, and it's something that pretty much anybody can do, like you say, but being modified. But, you know, it does get that blood flowing. It makes you feel better.
Yeah, it's the feel good.
It is.
Yeah.
It really, really does. You get those endorphins going and you feel good about it, and then you want to come back again and again. Yeah. And then, you know, if you can't get to a class, the great thing is you can do it at home. I mean, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
I know you do it on the beach sometimes, and we're going to talk about that too in a little bit. But you can do it pretty much anywhere. That's the beauty of it, right? I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break, talk to everyone about our national sponsor, and we'll be back in just a moment, so stay with us.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care. Arden Courts has about 50 memory care assisted living communities across the United States, and 10 of them are right here in Florida. Arden Courts is a leader when it comes to memory care, helping you help your loved one who has Alzheimer's disease or some other form of dementia. They offer lots of support groups, education, and today, just because you're listening to this program, they like to offer this book to you. It's called The 36-Hour Day, and that's how a lot of caregivers feel when they're going through their daily motion of 24 hours, but they feel like they've jam-packed in 36 hours into one 24-hour period. And that's why this book is called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful book. It's a great resource written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. And this book is absolutely free just for the asking because you are listening or watching this program. So if you would like to get your own copy of The 36-Hour Day, all you have to do is send an email, and that email address is delray@arden-courts.com. That's DELRAY at Arden, ARDEN, -courts, COURTS caregiversolutioninfo.com. Let them know that you heard about this offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show. Send them your name, address, and telephone number, and they'll be happy to send a book straight to you. I highly recommend it, and if you know somebody that could benefit from this book, get it for them. They would really, really appreciate it. They can learn a lot about caregiving tips. They can learn a lot about the different types of dementia. It is a very, very good resource, and they would be very lucky to have it. So send an email to delray@arden-courts.com and get your 36-hour day book. So my guest today is very interesting, and I love talking to her. Her name is Jillian Staken. She is a yoga instructor. She teaches yoga, meditation, all that goes with it. And it's so interesting because we're talking about relieving stress. That's the big thing now. Everybody has stress, right? And I think we've have stress in different ways.
Yes.
And stress affects us in different ways. It affects our mind. You know, we worry. Stress causes a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety. We stress in our body. You know, people get all tensed up, and sometimes we hold stress in our body, and it makes us physically sick, right? You get stomach aches, and you get pains. And then, you know, stress causes us to act differently, too. Sometimes we do the wrong things. We might yell at people. We might be nasty. We might overeat. We might overdrink. So stress is bad, right? We all know that's bad. But trying to get rid of stress is not always simple for some people. So we're talking about a simple way. And, you know, sometimes things that you think it's too simple. How could it work, right?
Right.
But it does work.
Yeah.
And yoga has been around for centuries, and it would not still be here if it did not work, right? And I can personally testify it. You have a personal story about how it's helped you. So, Jillian, there are different types of yoga. Now, I have your card here, and it's a lovely card, and on the back, you mentioned 4 different types of yoga that you like to teach. And they're called the gentle, the vinyasa, the hatha, and the restorative.
Yes.
So can you go through each one and sort of tell us why they're different, how they're different, and why would somebody prefer one type of yoga over the other?
Sure. So I'll start with the vinyasa. So it's typically a flow. It's breath to movement. So it's one posture flowing into another. And that's become kind of the way that people have been practicing yoga here, because it's a workout. It's definitely a high calorie burn class. So some people have a hard time sitting in postures for long. They just,
And when you say postures, you mean different positions.
like asanas, yeah. So
Okay.
like warrior 2, you know, all of the poses. So vinyasa is more of just one breath per movement type of yoga. So I would recommend that to anybody who's looking for more of a workout, and that's usually the first class I feel like somebody will take, because if you have a busy mind, it's easier to do because there's more movement. There's not so much sitting involved in it.
So it keeps your mind going.
Yes.
Because you have to keep following
Right.
and do the different positions, or what you
Right.
call postures.
Yes.
So I never thought of yoga as a workout,
Well, yeah.
I mean,
it's like a work in.
working it in. But you can actually work up, you know, like sweat, right? When
Well,
you're doing yoga.
yeah.
I mean, I know they even have yoga where it's like hot yoga. You've
Yes.
heard that hot yoga,
Yes.
right? And people actually go into hot rooms and do yoga.
Right.
So are they doing that to sweat out their bodies for toxins, or are they doing that to lose weight?
So a little bit of both, but also they say if you practice in a hot room, it opens you up a little bit more as far as like flexibility wise. The only downside to that is sometimes it's not real. your body isn't as open as as you perceive it. So sometimes people can get injuries.
So explain that a little bit more.
So in a heated room, so naturally, you have a warm up before you start any type of workout to warm up your muscles and get your body going.
Yes.
Right. So, and all of my classes include a warm up, but they say that the hot room helps start the warm up process a little bit faster. So sometimes your body appears to feel more open, but it's not, because you haven't actually opened it up yet. So that's the one thing I would always, try and tell people, like, just be mindful of your body when you're moving in a hot room, because it's not always, a lot of people end up being really sore or having an injury. Anytime I hear somebody say I had an injury with yoga, it's usually when they were in like a hot room.
Well, you bring up a good topic. So can you actually injure yourself in other ways with yoga, or is it mostly because they haven't warmed up and they pull a muscle, or are there other things that people shouldn't do that can injure them?
I mean, it's not what people, it's not about what you shouldn't do. It happens. Our bodies are responding to what's happening with us on a physical level and an energetic level. So sometimes it happens, right? I would always say, if you're trying any type of inversion like handstands, and you're new, maybe have the teacher come over to you, assist you. That's definitely one of those things where it just can happen like anything else. You can slip and fall, you can lose your balance, and it does happen, but to prevent it would be a great warm-up and being mindful as you move.
And go slow.
Yes.
And don't try to rush, because we
Right.
talked about it is a process, and people should start where they are, right, and work up to it, and not try to keep up with everybody else, because that's when it's going to happen, when you're trying to do what everybody else is
Yes.
doing and you're not conditioned yet, you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's why you say it's individual for everybody. So vinyasa then is the high energy one.
Yes, there's power yoga. You could keep going into it, which is even faster. But for all the ones that you listed, yes, vinyasa is the most powered, fast class. Yes,
Because people see advertisements for different things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they don't understand the differences.
Yes.
And to me, that's very interesting to know which one is best for me. How should I
Yeah.
start? Where should I start? So how about the hatha? What is that one?
So hatha is more of sitting in postures for a longer period of time. So, and that's pretty much the opposite of what we just talked about, and how I said people have a hard time sitting in the postures.
Is that
they
because
can't.
they're impatient?
I think, and this is coming from personal experience, sometimes I just can't quiet my mind, and I like to do a mixture a bit in my classes, because what ends up happening is I like people to explore what happens in your brain when you're moving and when you're not. Right, so you do these moving meditations where you're breathing and moving, and it's one breath per movement, and then all of a sudden you're in a pose and you're there and you're breathing for like 5 to 8 breaths, and so it's like, oh, what's happening in my brain? Like, there's a moment where you're like, I need to get out of this, I'm uncomfortable, and then there's that moment where you just meet yourself with that like compassion, where you're like, all right, I'm here, I'm just gonna breathe, and that's
where it feels good.
Yes.
That's the
Where
sweet
it's like you're
that's
tugging. It's like tug of war with yourself. And I'm
No,
like,
but
all
that's
right.
the sweet spot.
Yes, it is.
And I've experienced that. It's like, oh, I don't know about this, but then you breathe and you go with the flow, as they say,
Yes.
and it's nice. It's really nice. So that's slower and
Yes.
holding the positions. What about the restorative? What's that one about?
So restorative, which I mentioned earlier, the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're talking about stress, right? So stress response is that fight, flight, or freeze response that we all experience all the time. It's a natural mechanism that happens in our body from ancient time when we were running away from animals trying to attack us, but it still exists in our brains today. So the practice of restorative yoga helps you tap in to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is probably the best thing if you're hyper stressed, is a restorative practice. I try to get to one at least. I try to do twice a month, but I don't always get there. But it's just sitting in it's very restorative postures. So using blocks, bolsters, blankets. You're obviously going to be somewhat uncomfortable, but it's about using the props to find comfort in those uncomfortable moments, which is really the key to unlocking it all. And it allows you to slow everything down.
So when you say restorative, or that's what it's called, is it restoring your peace? Is that's what I'm hearing. It's more like, restoring peace to yourself, like slowing down your whole self, your mind, your body and your thinking and all of that.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then the gentle, that's probably self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, gentle can go as far as like it being like a gentle vinyasa. So, which is good for people. It's good for people who want that vinyasa experience, but they don't want such a strenuous, rigorous flow. They want to be able to do one breath per movement and flow, but not be sweating. And it's good for people who are a little bit older, who don't have that range of motion, or people who haven't done yoga. So that's the gentle.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So it's a lot about breathing, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot about your mind. And so you also incorporate meditation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so do you do meditation at the same time as yoga, or is it separate, or is it combined together usually?
Well, I mean, yoga is a form of meditation,
Okay.
right? So you have that, but you also I will always start off in the beginning with a little bit of either like a guided meditation or a mindfulness meditation, which is really just paying attention to breath. And then at the end, sometimes I will also do a really nice guided meditation as well. Mindfulness is probably my favorite form of meditation.
So when you talk about mindfulness, there's different forms of meditation. And how would you describe what mindfulness is when you're meditating?
It's just being in the moment. So you can mindful walk, you can mindfully breathe, you can mindfully eat, which is, it's like, oh, that's it. But it's one of those things where, when you have a thought and then that next thought back ends the thought, and it's just like, and then you're in this storyline. So mindfulness is about just coming back to the moment, coming back to the breath. There's different exercises you can do, which is mindfulness, but it's just creating that space. It's not so much about getting to a destination of like bliss. It's just about paying attention in the present moment.
And what does that do for somebody if they're paying attention in the moment? What's the benefit of that?
I mean, all benefits. I think there's not a benefit. But the benefit is you're not going to, you remove that. You're not reacting anymore. You're just responding. So that's the goal, is instead of reacting to something, you're able to learn how to take a breath or just take a moment and then respond. Or you're not going to eat a whole bag of chips because you're being mindful of if you're full or not, which it's like, oh, that's...
And they actually say that when you're eating, they actually say that if you pay attention to what you're eating, really taste the food, you're chewing the food, you're enjoying the food, and
Right.
staying in the moment with what you're doing with the food, that you can actually lose weight, like you said, because all of a
Yes.
sudden you realize, I've spent this time with this food and now I'm full, and you've given your body a chance to tell you that you're full,
Right.
So that's an example of
Yep.
just eating, being mindful of that. And so same thing with any type of action that you do, being in the moment and enjoying the moment, and not what I think of as worrying about the future or agonizing over the past, right?
Right.
And keep you like in the current. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Jillian is going to do some mindful meditation for all of us. So you won't want to miss that. We'll be right back.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, we're back. Caregiver Solutions Info Show. My name is Marcia Teele, and my guest today is Jillian Staken with Pop-Up Yoga. And we've been talking about how to reduce stress with yoga, with meditation, with your breathing. Everybody has stress. Everybody can do this. We've been talking about it. So I'm going to give you a chance to share with me and all of our audience watching or listening today to do a little bit of what you call guided meditation. And so you can explain to everybody what we're going to do, and then you take it away.
Okay. So if anybody's driving, try not to participate in this. So if you're home, if you are wherever you are and you're not driving, just find a seated position. You can even lay down if that feels more comfortable for you. I'm going to have you close your eyes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
everybody close their eyes.
Okay, including me.
Yes,
I'm going to
yes.
do this. Okay.
So just closing the eyes and just allowing yourself to land in your space. So allowing yourself to land in the chair, land if you're lying down. Taking a deep breath in through the nose, and then exhale, open up the mouth, and just let it go. So starting to give yourself permission to drop in to the space, right? So whatever room you're in, wherever you are, and then starting to just give yourself permission to just be here, right? With all the feelings, the thoughts, whatever it is. Taking another deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, open up the mouth, let it go. So starting to notice the breath coming in and out. Maybe you notice it, the chest, the belly, the inhales through the nose. So just slowing the breath down now. So you want to feel the breath come in all the way to the top of the spine. And then you want to fully exhale to let go. Inhale fully through, up, and then exhale, lower it down. So bringing your awareness to the crown, the highest point of your body. And as you bring your awareness there, you take a breath in, and you take a breath out. Gently bringing your awareness down to your third eye, that space just above the eyebrows, center of the forehead. Taking a breath in, taking a breath out into that space. And then lowering all the way down, bringing your attention to the mouth, the jaw. See if you can soften here. Notice if you're holding any tension. Maybe remove the tongue from the top of the mouth, slight part in the lips, and take a breath in here. Exhale, let it go. So pausing and noticing, do you want to fidget? Do you want to move? Just kindly and gently bringing your awareness back to your body and your breath. And the awareness will drop down to the shoulders, the chest. Notice any heaviness, any openness. And with acceptance, just take a breath in. And exhale, let it go. Good. Making your awareness now down to the arms, the tops of the arms, the forearms, the wrist, the fingertips. Feeling all 5 fingers. Take a breath here. And then take a breath out. Awareness now comes down into the belly, the navel. Notice any discomfort here. And just allow yourself to breathe and sit. Breath in. Breath out to this space. Making your awareness now down to the lower back, the hips. All the way down to the legs, the knees. Down to the calf, the shin, the ankle. All the way to the feet, the tops of the feet. Notice the toes. And then once you get to the bottoms of the feet, big inhale in. Exhale, let the whole day go. Giving yourself permission to not hold on to what has happened and just be here now in the moment.
Wow, that was relaxing. That really was relaxing. I'm glad I didn't fall asleep. No, that was really, really good. So that's an example of mindful meditation. And you just follow the teacher and it's guided by you. And it really is relaxing when you talk about the different parts of the body. You know, your mind goes there and you can actually feel it. So I want to give everybody a chance to know where Jillian does her pop-up yoga. Talk about your practice, what you do, where you do it, how people can get connected with you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So I teach public classes on the beach, on Palm Beach Island. I do sunset classes and sunrise classes. My schedule looks a little bit different every week, but I try and stay a bit consistent. My next sunset class will be this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. So my public classes are a mixture of vinyasa, a little bit of hatha, a little bit of gentle, but I never like to kind of say exactly what it is because I usually read the room. Or read the energy of the space. So it's a very customized flow. I try not to plan too much ahead, and I try to follow the energy of who comes to the class. And my focus is really just about compassion, breath work, and really just learning how to listen to the body. So I have my public classes that I do, and I also do private sessions with people at their homes, and I have a virtual class on Wednesdays at 7 a.m., and I also go to communities and teach classes as well there. So I have an Instagram, Jillian's Pop-Up Yoga. I also have a website, jillianspopupyoga.com. Everything's very repetitive. I post all of my classes there. My email is jillian@jillianspopupyoga.com. I answer all my emails pretty quick. And yeah, I love what I do. It comes from a really a place of authenticity and passion, and I feel really blessed and honored to be able to, to really do this work. It doesn't feel like work, and I hope to meet some of you listeners.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I actually took a class on the beach with Jillian. It was awesome. If you've never taken a yoga class on the beach, you need to get with Jillian because it was really, really good. So it's jillianspopupyoga.com. Check out the website. You have schedules on there.
Yep.
People can connect. Do they need to RSVP before they come?
They don't have to, but I always say to do it just so I know that you're coming. It's very easy. There's a calendar, and you click the link, and you just put your name, your email. Very simple. But if you're last minute, you're more than welcome to
Just
show
show up?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
You make room.
Yes.
And what do people need to bring with them? A mat, a blanket?
I say to bring a big blanket. I feel like a mat's a little bit challenging to practice on in the sand. So just a big blanket. You're going to get sandy. You're going to be hot.
But it's beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's right on the beach, looking at the ocean.
There's
It's
nothing better.
all nature, so serene.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So, again, this is Jillian. She's with Pop-Up Yoga, and contact her at jillianspopup.yoga.com. Thank you for being here
Thank you for
today.
having me.
I
It's so
enjoyed you
nice.
so much. Thank you. And thank all of you for being with us today, too, and for learning about how you can de-stress. Lots of different ways, but a healthy way is yoga and meditation. So join us next week, same time, same place, 6 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays, caregiversolutions.info, and I'll be looking for you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.